to do this live on YouTube. It appears, though I've done nothing wrong but tell the truth on Facebook, that Facebook is now restricting me from doing Facebook Lives. That's something. So I guess now with Facebook, I guess it will soon be with YouTube too. I don't know. Seems the way they're blocking free speech and people from being able to tell the truth, I guess eventually it's going to be YouTube. I mean, they're knocking off everything. It's pretty clear we're becoming a fascist like Nazi nation right now. And all these people with the YouTube and all these online internet and things are very complicit with the fascist Nazis. It's amazing, but they call everybody else fascist. But anyway, let's hope YouTube continues to be somewhat of a neutral party in all this. Today, I got to go in and do another video because I've seen this and I got to go over this. I want you to listen. This is Don Lemon. And Don Lemon is a black Democrat American who is the one who keeps giving. I've done videos before with this in relation to this. Somehow I guess Facebook deleted them because I looked back to see if they were there. There was one I could just repost up about him for this, but no, there wasn't. But anyway, I want to take a quick listen to him and what he's got to say, and then we're going to take a quick look at this.
You hear is, well, you can't say that everybody who voted for Trump is like the people who went into the Capitol. Response.
You can't say that. What? Everybody's like
everybody who voted for Trump is like them.
No, I just explained to you. If you are on that side, you need to think about the side you're on. I'm never on the side of the Klan. I am never principled people, conservative or liberal, never on the Klan side. Principled people, conservative or liberal, never on the Nazi side. Principled people who are conservative or liberal, never on the side that treats their fellow Americans as less than. That says that your fellow Americans should not exist. That says your fellow Americans should be in a concentration camp, or that sides with slavery, or sides with any sort of bigotry.
Right, and if they say, I don't agree with those people, I just like Trump's policy.
Well, then get out of the crowd with him. Get out of the crowd.
I wasn't in the crowd, I just voted for Trump.
You're in the crowd who voted for Trump. If you voted for Trump, you voted for the person who the Klan supported. You voted for the person who Nazis support. You voted for the person who the alt-right supports. That's the crowd that you are in. You voted for the person who incited a crowd to go into the Capitol and potentially take the lives of lawmakers, took the lives of police officers, took the lives of innocent lives who were there on the Capitol that day. You voted on that side, and the people in Washington are continuing to vote on that side.
Okay, so this is ironic because this right here is what I'm talking about. When I mention like an educated idiot or a talking head idiot that has no clue about reality and is so out of touch with reality that it's amazing to even wonder with today's technology and the information that's available online, you have to wonder, do these people ever think, let me just take a look and see if what I know is true. This is the thing that gets me. Let's take a look here. Right, we got him. So, the inconvenient truth about the Democratic Party. Don Lemon is a Democrat. This guy's a Democrat, and he's talking about he's in support. He's with the people of the Democratic Party. Now, he says that if you support Nazis, slavery, oppression, separating people, dividing people, that you should get out of that crowd. Well, I'm telling you, Don, guess what? You have a double hit to the head for you because one, you're a black American. Two, you're a black American who's a Democrat. And actually, let's keep going. Three, you're a black American Democrat who supports the Nation of Islam. I didn't include that with what my story's going to be, but I'll verbatim it as we go. And, it's amazing. Now, let's just take a quick look, Don Lemon, about who you're talking about when you're talking about slavery, Nazis, and what have you. I'm going to give you a brief rundown in history, Don Lemon. Okay, now, the inconvenient truth about the Democratic Party was that the Democratic Party was founded in 1828 as a pro-slavery party. The founders of the Democratic Party was known as the British Tory. The British Tory were the majority of slaveholders in the state because prior to the Revolutionary War, they were the governors of King George, who were appointed to oversee and manage the large slave plantations and farming districts in the South. After the Revolutionary War, once we defeated King George, the Tory in the South claimed those large plantations, along with all the slaves who were laboring them, as their own property. So they became the largest landowners and slaveholders in the nation. They refused to give up slavery. In 1828, they formed the Democratic Party's pro-slavery political establishment to fight for the right to keep slavery and expand slavery in the country. They were fighting to defend slave owners' rights. Now, Abraham Lincoln, on the approach of, 30-something years later, after they formed the Democratic Party, after 30-something years of civil battle with them with the North, we became divided in a nation where there was 19 free states and there was 15 slave states. The 15 slave states were under the control of the Democratic Party. The 19 free states were under the control of the Republican Party, of the free Constitution of the United States of America. And we still had this long going, this divisive enemy within the Democrats. Now the Democrats actually caused the freaking Civil War. They literally divided the nation and took to war. They felt so strong about slavery and keeping their slaves that they were willing to go to war for it and try to overthrow the constitutional free republic of the United States so that they could keep slavery and expand slavery. And they had on their side the allies of the primary provider. We're going to go into that. I'm going to ad-lib this, of their slaves. America was not the founding of the black African slave trade. The black African slave trade, in fact, was founded in 640 AD by the Islamic Muslims. The Islamic Muslims were a major provider of all slaves in the transatlantic slave trade, and where King George had purchased those slaves to ship out to work for the Tories on the slave plantations in the southern developing farming districts of the new continent of the United States. Well, at the time, wasn't the United States, of the Americas. Okay, the Muslims were a provider. They have been dealing in the black slave trade since 640 AD, or 1,200 years before America even existed. So, and the Democrats and them back then were allied, same as they are this very day. Now pay attention to that, because we're going to talk about the allied and the things of in common of what progressed through time from even all the way back to our founding to this very day that are the same. So pay close attention. Okay, the Democratic Party had established right here. I know a lot of people like to think it's a battle flag, but the Confederate flag, as you see here, second national flag. That's the second national flag. This is the second. Right here is the 12-star variant of the stainless banner product of the third national flag. They even did a reversal here, right here, because this variant capture following the battle flag of Pennsville was actually something that represented that of the flip around from the Scottish to the Irish and the Irish to the Scottish. You have to read up on them. These are Garrison, but these were all right here, like you see, second national flag. The first national flag was stars and bars. And there's a reason now. There was a German artist who designed this, and there's letters back and forth between Jefferson Davis and those of the Confederate Army, the Democratic Party, to why they don't like this, because it looks too much like the American flag. They wanted to send a strong signal off that represented who they really were, the Tory, the Kingsmen of Great Britain, the British Loyalists, who we were at civil conflict since this nation was founded. They wanted to make sure that Great Britain understood that they were still loyal to them and they were still Tories. So this flag, that cross represents, I believe, is the cross of St. Christopher of Scotland, and the red background is the Loyalist flag of Ireland. And that was the appointed governors of the elitist status royal families of Ireland and Scotland's loyalty flag that made up the combination of what would become the second national flag of the Democratic Party's Confederate slave states, right there. They hated America. They wanted nothing to do with America. They were never a part of America. Just so you understand that, Don. Okay? Now, this guy, after we beat them, because Abraham Lincoln, like I said, was the Republican. We won the Civil War, the Republicans. And then after we beat them, what happened, sadly, was they killed Abraham Lincoln, a Republican president. And then Andrew Johnson, who was a Democrat, he's the father of rhinos, meaning Republican in name only. He was not really a Republican, he was a Democrat, who was masking himself as a Republican. And he was the guy, after they killed Lincoln, he pardoned Jefferson Davis, Democratic president of the Confederate slave states of the Democratic Party. He pardoned this guy here, who was the first Grand Wizard, Nathan Bedford Forrest. He was the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. The Democratic Party founded the Ku Klux Klan at the conclusion, at the end of 1865, of the Civil War. They had formed it as a terrorist organization. As we progress forward with the Ku Klux Klan and the Democratic Party, we find out that the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan also, as we progress up to 1869, 1870, when we had the Revolutionary boom, in order to suppress the blacks out of the booming industry and the big high-paying jobs, they formed the Knights of the Labor Union with the Democratic Party's Ku Klux Klan. Of which, again, now remember, as I'm trying to say, the Democrats to this day still support those unions. Those unions, and the reason the Republicans are against those unions, because they understand the truth of what those unions represent. They represent the suppression of that of the large corporations and that of wealthy, wimpy men who don't have the balls to fight or defend themselves or take up a stand for themselves, and who will crumble under the threat of the Ku Klux Klan and those deviant, evil, divisive people of the Democratic Party and do what they say. And then they force them to hire the Ku Klux Klan men as their foremen, who then hire their Ku Klux Klan white buddies, and they fire all the black people. And the black people wind up depressed in poverty-stricken communities like they do. This was all goes along within a plan. You know, they had the Jim Crow laws was all established by the Democrats, the Democratic Party right here. Now, we get all the way up until 1915, all the way through 1921 with Woodrow Wilson, the man who revived the Ku Klux Klan in 1915 by showing the birth of a nation in the White House. Now, there's another similarity of things today that the Democratic Party still are very loyal to. 1916, Woodrow Wilson supported and backed greatly Margaret Sanger with her Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger considered the black people to be weeds that needed to be plucked or exterminated. She had her eugenics program where she had a plan to go ahead and reduce the birth rate of them to stop their population growth in our nation. We know that within every Democratic community and state across this country, they're infested with the Planned Parenthood birth control centers. And we also know to this day, Democratic Party worships Margaret Sanger as if she's like a saint to the Democratic Party. So we understand these things continued on. Mind you, too, it was Woodrow Wilson who revived the Ku Klux Klan, certified the Koran of the Ku Klux Klan's new book of rules, and then passed off and he started putting appeals in district judges who were actually Ku Klux Klan members. He ran the reign of what was known as remembering Red Summer. And Red Summer was actually more than Red Summer. It went on from 1915 to 1921. And what he did was he used the Insurrection Act of the World War I. Now, all this is just coming verbatim from me. Understand, people, somebody saying, oh, I got to go with it. It's in my memory. Okay, World War I, so that you couldn't talk bad about the government. While he did this after reviving the Ku Klux Klan, this is what happened with the Klan. They went on a rampage across the nation, literally burning down thriving and succeeding black communities because they envied the blacks that they were doing so good. They couldn't stand it. They were getting a higher paying jobs because they were good. They had good work ethics and stuff. The industrial boom, the factory workers wanted them. And as well, they got hip to with the separate but equal and the Jim Crow laws, and they had separated communities. They were like, okay, fine. They started investing their money, sending their kids to northern schools and getting educated. They had Black Wall Street. In Texas, they had bought land, they hit oil. They had plantations, their own farms. They were prospering and doing great. The Democrats, those racist damn Democrats couldn't stand it, man. They couldn't stand it. And under Woodrow Wilson, they went on a warpath across the nation, literally burning down and killing tens of thousands of friggin' black Americans across this nation, as well as white Republicans who were supporting them. They tormented and tortured tens of thousands of white Republicans and killed tens of thousands of blacks. From 1950 to 1921, by 1921, they decimated the entire black prospering communities across this nation. And nobody could do a thing about it, because if you raised any rhetoric about it or tried to raise a grievance about what he was doing with his Klan, allowing them to do what they wanted, they'd lock you up for violations of the Insurrection Act, where you weren't allowed to speak out against the government because of World War I. And you get a 10-year sentence. And some people of Republicans who tried wound up getting that. Later on, they were actually appealed it, and they didn't have to serve the full 10 years. But he made it pretty clear that anybody who spoke out against what the Klan was doing was going to be considered a violation of that act, and you were going to be guilty and charged and placed in jail for 10 years or fined out until you were bankrupt. And this was no joke. And then we move forward here. We get to this guy. This is the first Supreme Court judge who was appointed by FDR, the next Democrat to run. FDR not only supported putting the first Ku Klux Klan member on the Supreme Court, he also supported separate but equal and continuation of the Jim Crow laws. And he also, strangely enough, was one of the men who backed up with the governor of Ohio to allow for the first mosque in the Islamic Muslims to come in. Let's not forget, they're still allied to this day with these Muslims. And as prior mentioned, there was a reason it was allied with them and the Muslims back in the old times, and that was because the Muslims were their primary slave providers. Okay, and now here it goes in 1934 by a man named Fard. Woodrow Wilson, as long as with FDR, allows for the building of a mosque and the expansion of the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam, I got a video on my YouTube here. You can watch the lies of the Nation of Islam. I'm not going to go into all that right now. I'm just trying to make my point for Don here, the Democrat. So he understands, we're talking all about Democrats here. FDR was a Democrat too, and he pushed it. FDR is the man who appointed the first Supreme Court judge. We're up to 1934, man. Okay, and understand, the Klan's still active. This guy was the first case. You know, 100-year, we're getting up on the 100-year mark here. Now, we're going to move forward here. We got also through with FDR and the Democratic Party, the races of the 1940s right here. We had the issues going on with the Knights Clan of the unions that were removing jobs, and the blacks were really struggling and had a hard time. We were in a depression, and the Democrats really didn't care anything. They kept pushing their separate but equal laws and their Jim Crow laws, and the blacks were just getting suppressed into like poverty-stricken hell in these times under the Democrats. And the whole purpose of the reasoning for the Nation of Islam was to try and create a wedge and divisiveness between the white and black Republicans, and they did succeed by the 1950s and 60s, which we'll get to. We see here, it's funny, Don, you talk about these things. You talk about the Republicans, the race to the Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, the division of people, the separate, where you feel like you're more superior, but you know, this is all related to Democrats. And as we get through with FDR, which goes through the 40s, we have right here where we start entering to the point of World War II. Do you know who favored and was like allies in discussions of undeniable evidence of fact within our history? The Democrats embraced the Nazi Party idea. FDR refused. He refused. I think I got it right here. Yeah, United States and the threat of Nazi Germany struggling to preserve democracy echoes the past. And also, too, I'd like to remind you that the Democratic Party was Nazi Germany, not Russia. Not Russia, Don. Not Russia. You see, you're talking about Russia, you're getting mixed up. You think Russia's the Nazi. Russia was an allied with us. It was Germany who was the Nazis, not Russia. Russia was an allied with us, Don, understand. So Trump's favor with them, in that sense, goes in nationalism. So you're aware, Don Lemon, you dumb, ignorant son of a bitch, that, so you get this, okay? Russia was allied with us in the Revolutionary War. Russia was allied with the Civil War. They actually helped your people become free. Because, you know what? The Democrats had wanted to seek allied with that of Great Britain, of which if Great Britain and France allied with them, we probably wouldn't have won the war. But Russia threatened to allied with that of the Civil War, with those of the Republican parties, anti-slavery Republican Party. And then that stopped Britain and France from coming in, and that's what probably led to us being able to defeat those racist bastards, those Democrats. Okay, and then when we get up to World War I, Russia was allied again with America. And then in World War II, I think you got a little screwed up when you're talking about Nazis. You're a little mixed up with Putin and Russia. You're not realizing it was Germany, Don. Germany with Hitler. Hi, you remember the guy? Germany with Hitler. The guy had the youth groups in 1920, was friends with FDR. And he was also friends with Woodrow Wilson, and Wilson liked his fascist ideas, and FDR really embraced the man as being, I believe he called him a genius. Yeah, a genius. And they all collaborated with the Democrats and the Nazis about, the Nazis were fascinated with the American Democratic Party's ability to segregate and keep, races separate, and they really liked, they also embraced the Planned Parenthood idea of eugenics and exterminating the black race. You remember Margaret Sanger said you don't want to let it get out to the Negro that our plan is to exterminate them. I'm just saying, look these things up a little bit, Don. You might want to go online, do a little research. You got that little phone, maybe that little phone, internet, something, anything. Pick up a goddamn book, will you? Read something, you stupid ass. Really, I'm sick of you people. You don't even have a clue. You're how stupid and ignorant, and you mislead your own people with this stupidity like ridiculous. Just totally, that angers me. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go back forward right here. Nazi Germany, the embrace between them. Now we're going to jump all the way up to 1968. 100 years after the Civil War. Guess what we're still talking about, Don? Guess what we're still talking about, Don Lemon? We're still talking about the Ku Klux Klan. And you know who's in the Ku Klux Klan? The longest sitting senator, Robert Byrd. Oh, and the civil rights activist, so-called president hero of you, the black people of America, Lyndon B. Johnson. And guess what I got here, Don? This document is certified evidence by the FBI of investigations that prove that the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan have certifiable evidence of fact that Lyndon B. Johnson, your so-called civil rights hero, was in the Ku Klux Klan out of Texas. Oh my God, can you believe that, Don? It wasn't Republicans, it wasn't Trump, it was your own people. Oh my God, can you believe that, Don, you stupid freaking idiot? Now, this right here certifies that. Now, let's go a little bit further and take a look here, Don. Separate but equal laws. These things were all pushed by the Democrats. They were opposed to the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. They were opposed to anything of giving you anything in Reconstruction. Like I say, they did everything to oppress you. They had the Knights Unions, which forced you out of jobs. And with Woodrow Wilson, just to recap real quick, he literally disseminated all the black communities across the country from 1915 to 1921, killing tens of thousands of you, hanging you, lynching you, burning you, beating you to death in the streets, burning down your neighborhoods, destroying all your businesses, you name it. You know who helped you build all those businesses and everything, Don? It was the Republicans. Yeah, that's who it was, not the Democrats. See, you're a little bit confused, Don, because you know what? You go by that motto of Joe Biden and Harris. You choose truth over facts. The only problem is you choose truth that is actually lies. And if you check the facts, you would find out they're not the truth. They're freaking lies. That's why it's important to check the facts. But Don, quick secret between me and you and all the other black Americans, the reason they don't want you to do it, the reason they say choose truth over facts is because they're trying to get, if you go look at those facts, it's going to bust your bubble, Don. You're going to find out the goddamn real racists are the Democrats, and they've always been. And then you're going to find out the entire administration of the Democrats right now just have black people in the party as a front-face thing to fool everybody. In the back scenes of it all, they're still the Ku Klux Klan, dude. You're just blind to it. You're totally ignorant. Hey, you know what? There's a guy in Georgia just became the Grand Wizard. He's admitting to it. Yeah, and he's also admitting to how with the Democratic Party inciting all this black violence within their controlled communities, how it's really increased the membership into the Ku Klux Klan. Isn't that just great? You're talking about divisiveness and separating people, saying better. The Democratic Party, by inciting all the racial issues going on within the Democratic-controlled districts, states, and cities across this country, have increased in the last several years the membership to the Ku Klux Klan by what the own Grand Wizard in Georgia says, 38%. He didn't say anything about Republicans. It was the Democrat. He's a Democrat. They're all proud Democrats. All the Klan members are proud Democrats, except for the rhinos who come over to the Republican Party to infiltrate, to try and give a voice on the other side. Maybe you've been listening to some rhinos and you're not aware. I mean, because you obviously aren't too goddamn bright. That's pretty clear. But anyway, let's keep going on now. We get up to the right here, where you got the Democrats are fighting against demand equal rights for Negroes, and just they're protesting because they didn't want to have you blacks in the schools with their white kids. They didn't want to have they didn't even want to have to work with you in a factory next. They wanted to have segregated work areas where blacks worked and whites worked. And then the funny thing, like I say, here's your guy Lyndon B. Johnson. This is a thing on Snoops where it talks about that he said that he'll have those N-words voting Democrat for 200 years. Looks like he wasn't lying, I'll tell you that, because you people are pretty damn stupid, boy. When you look at the facts, you keep looking at that truth and you don't realize, the truth, the Democrats try to tell you what is their truth is lies. Because if you look at it, they're trying to tell you don't look at the facts, because if you look at the facts, you're going to catch them. That's what I'm trying to show you these facts to prove my point, Don. I'm trying to prove my point, Don. Just pay attention. You'll get it. If you do the facts, you're going to see I'm telling you the truth. Right? Let's take a look down here, Don. Here's something I want to look at. This is like Lyndon B. Johnson, supposedly. I mean, you guys say it was FDR was your party switch guy, then you say it was Lyndon B. Johnson. Well, it wouldn't matter if it was FDR or Lyndon B. Johnson. If it's Lyndon B. Johnson, he's the last one you claim it. Don't worry, even after this, I'm going to prove to you, it still goes on way after Lyndon B. Johnson. But anyway, Lyndon B. Johnson right here in 1968, he says, now, let me read this to you, Don. Just pay close attention now, because this is important. Those Negroes, they're getting pretty uppity these days. Now, mind you, this is a transcript of a recorded conversation, which everybody knows is a fact, the truth. It's on your own liberal snoops, right? These Negroes, they're getting pretty uppity these days. And that's a problem for us, since they've got something that new that now they've never had before. The political pool to back up their uppiness. Now, mind you, too, Barack Obama himself has verified this to be a fact. Now, we've got to do something about this. We've got to give them a little something, just enough to quiet them down, not enough to make a difference. For if we don't move at all, then their allies will line up against us, and there'll be no way of stopping them. We'll lose the filibuster, and there'll be no way of putting the brakes on all sorts of wild legislation. It'll be Reconstruction all over again. Now, Don, from my understanding, I want to explain to you how all that right there, we can verify who everybody is. Now, we know who he's referencing to, those Negroes. That's you guys, black Americans, right? There's no questioning that. We're pretty sure, right? They're getting pretty uppity these days, and that's a problem for us. Who do you think us is? Let's see. This is Lyndon B. Johnson, Democratic president, 1968, right? Talking to the Democratic Party establishment. So us would be the Democrats, okay? Since they've got something now they've never had before, the political pool to back up their uppiness. Now we've got to give them something. Who's the we? The Democrats, again. He's the Democratic president. He's talking to his Democratic administration, Don, at this time. So understand, if you tried to say Woodrow or FDR was your party switch guy, it's pretty clear that party didn't switch by Lyndon B. Johnson. And if you're trying to say it's Lyndon B. Johnson, well, I think he's making it pretty clear he don't care much for Negroes, right? He's making it pretty clear here. Pay attention, Don, dummy. Pay attention, right? Okay, so not enough to make a difference. Just enough to quiet them down. Not enough to make a difference. For if we don't move at all, then their allies will line up against us. Now, that's a very important statement by Lyndon B. Johnson, Don. Let me read that again. For if we don't move at all, then their allies will line up against us. Again, we need to break that down. If we don't move at all, who are we? He's the president of the Democrats. He's a Democratic president speaking to the Democratic administration of all the Democratic Party at that time. That's who we are. And move it all, then their allies. There would be the Negroes, because that's who he's talking about. And allies. That's the important part, Don. Who would be the allies? Who could that possibly be, Don? I mean, if the party switched in FDR and he's the party switch, wait a minute, it's so hard to get, because then who's he talking about is the allies, Don. You know, there's a way to know who he's talking about, you dummy. There's a way to know, you ignorant, stupid fool. Let me explain to you. Right here. Then their allies will line up against us, and there'll be no way of stopping them. We'll lose the filibuster, and there'll be no way of putting the brakes on all sorts of wild legislation. It'll be Reconstruction all over again. Boom! There you go, Don. Who founded the Reconstruction? Abraham Lincoln of the Republican Party. It's a solved mystery, Don. The Allies were the damn Republicans in 1968. So tell me, where's the party switch, Don? Where's the party switch? Obviously, it didn't happen. You see, if you wouldn't have been believing the fake lies of their truth, and you check the facts, you stupid idiot, you would know this as well as all the rest of black America. You that's trapped under this democratic hypnotism of believing the truth over the facts, because the facts set out the truth is a goddamn lie by the Democrats. You need to wake up, Don. You need to wake up. You're delusional. Now, I've just gone over near 100 years of evidence, of facts, I mean, very briefly to just make it clear. And I would like you to tell me, do the same thing with me, Don. Go back over the last 244 years of history and show me as I'm showing you, you ignorant fool, how the Republicans are the fault of all these things you speak of. Show me. You can't, Don. You know why? Because they're not. It's all a freaking lie. And you need to wake up and face reality. Now we're going to go a little bit forward here. Look at this, Don. Who is that? You know who that is, Don. Come on, you're a Democrat. That's your boy. That right there is Robert Byrd, longest standing Democrat senator in the Democratic Party. Best friends with Lyndon B. Johnson, the KKK member out of Texas we were just talking about, who said you niggers are getting uppity, right? That's what he said. These Negroes are getting uppity this time. Got to give them a little something, not enough to make a difference, just enough to quiet them down. Because if we don't, their allies are going to line up with them. The allies are the Republicans, Don. Are you getting this yet? Is it getting through your little thick head yet? How stupid you sound? This is Robert Byrd, longest standing Democratic senator. Died in 2010. He was best friend with Lyndon B. Johnson. And guess what? Guess what, Don? He was not only best friends with Lyndon B. Johnson, he was best friend with the current, right now, Democratic Party frontrunner and so-called elected president. Yeah. And you know what? I want you to hear what your recent, like last election with Donald Trump, he had to run against Hillary Clinton. That was the Democratic Party's front runner. Your current Democratic Party, who you are a member of, Don. And this really upsets me because I'm a Republican. I'm not a racist. I'll tell you right now, I'm not a racist. I couldn't be a racist. My stepdad was a black guy. He raised me as a kid. He gave me all these values. I mean, I couldn't be a racist. We have black family. I can't be a racist. And I wouldn't be anyway. I'm just glad of who I am. I define myself by with the principles I knew. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. This is not in my nature, right? But you are an idiot for a black man because, you know, with me, I learned all this stuff and I'm aware of this. And I'm like, how could a goddamn black man be a Democrat? How could a black guy even think of like supporting the Nation of Islam? How could a black guy be saying this? I mean, how could you be saying this, Don, against the Republicans, who even your own Lyndon B. Johnson, your own Democratic so-called civil rights president, who you think is your freaking hero, he himself calls us your allies. Who do you think he's talking about? Yeah, you're offending us, Don. You're offending us. Because, you know, for 244 years, we've been trying to build this nation of one people of all equal. The Republicans have been trying to do that. It's the God's honest truth, Don. The Republican Party started in 1792 with Thomas Jefferson. After, and then at that time, in 1977, the first state on a Republican concept was Vermont to abolish slavery and give black people the right to vote. And the abolitionists led all the way up until the Democrats caused the Civil War. Your people, and then now, like I said, we got Robert Byrd. This is modern time. Look at this, Don. This is your guy. This is a Democrat. He died in 2010. He claims, I get it, Don, I get it. He claims that, he left the Klan and he had this moral revival. Let me tell you something, Don, God's honest truth. I did another video, and you can look it up. It's called the Ku Klux Klan Quran. That's the rule book they live by. Now, if you read that rule book, you're going to find out that once you're in the Klan, it's kind of like Islam. You see, they're very close. You got the Quran, and they got the Quran. And they have all these similar things, like in Islam, the apostasy, you try to lead, they kill you. Same thing goes on with the Ku Klux Klan. If you read their book in the Quran, Don, you're going to find out he knew too much. There's no leaving the Klan. And the rules are pretty explicit and clear. If you leave the Klan, you get killed. And if you're alive, Don, after being at the level he was at, Grand Recruiter, trust me, he really wanted out. One, here's the deal. If he really left the Klan and came into the government, we would have been able to totally annihilate the Ku Klux Klan. They wouldn't be here today because he would have gave us all the information about who everybody was, but he never did that, Don. He never did that. And I'm going to tell you right now, here's the thing. Here's your last front runner from the Donald Trump election, the last time when Trump won. Presidential run Democratic Party. I want you to hear what she has to say about Robert Byrd. But first, I want you to understand, Robert Byrd died a Klansman. He could have never got out of the Klan. Read the Quran of the Ku Klux Klan. You'll understand exactly what I'm telling you is a fact, the truth. Once you're in that deep, there's no getting out. And if he lived to as long as he did, he never got out. And then on top of it, the evidence supports that the man really didn't, because you know what? He never did anything to stop the Klan, because we know they're still active this very day. And they're the Democratic Party, Don. The party you're in. And you're just a front-faced clown, an idiot, a totally ignorant damn fool, a black American who's being played like Dixie like you wouldn't believe. You know how stupid you look to somebody like me who knows this history and these facts? I say to myself, God, you know what you need to do, Don? Go on YouTube and look up Donna the Deer. As a matter of fact, don't even do that. Just go look up your own Democrat in Georgia. What's his name? Hank Johnson. And watch the video on him talking and concerned about Guam capsizing. Then watch the video about the lady, Donna the Deer sign lady. Go look in the mirror, right? And ask yourself, is it possible people are that stupid in this world? And then while you're looking in the mirror, ask yourself, do you see somebody that stupid with what I'm showing you? Because I'm pretty sure if you look in that mirror, it's got to click somewhere. You got to have, because you see me, you got to have some kind of, you can speak pretty articulate. I imagine there's got to be something up in that damn head, right? But let's go forward. Listen to what Hillary Clinton has to say about, this guy right here. I want this. Now, mind you, she's speaking of this guy, the Grand Recruiter of the Ku Klux Klan out of Virginia, right here, right? Robert Byrd. Let's listen to her.
Our country has lost a true American original, my friend and mentor, Robert C. Byrd. Senator Byrd was a man of surpassing eloquence and nobility, and I will remember him for many things, but most of all, for a heartfelt comment.
Isn't that something, Don? A man of eloquence and nobility. Eloquent, really, Don, this is a KKK guy. Let me tell you something. Now, if you read that Quran and you do a little research, Don, because I know if I tell you, you're not going to believe me, so I'm telling you, do a little due diligence, right? To get to certain ranks, there's things you got to do. One, to ensure that you will stay and maintain a loyal, devoted member of the Klan at a certain level, you have to do certain initiations. One of those initiations to be a Grand Recruiter or a Grand Poobah or a Grand Wizard to these higher ranks that they have. Like if you want to be in the ranks of Lyndon B. Johnson or Robert Byrd, you're required to be witnessed either beating to death or lynching a black man. No joke, Don. This is a fact. This is a fact. So that means Robert Byrd and Lyndon B. Johnson both either beat to death or hung a black man. And your Democratic Party is able to go, let's forgive that. Let's forget that. And you're in that party. Get away from those people. Like you were saying, you need to get out of that crowd, Don. You need to go start telling your people, wake the hell up, because you've been being played a fool. I'm telling you right now, it gets worse, though, Don. Here, listen to this. This right here is your now current Democratic Party president speaking about Robert Byrd.
Moan and Marjorie, the entire Byrd family. If you didn't already know it, it's pretty clear the incredible esteem your father was held in. I know you've known that your whole life. To my fellow members of the Senate, you know,
Don, listen to him, Don.
When I got elected the last time, and I had the great honor of running with the president. I was elected vice president and United States senator the same day for my 7th term. And
long-standing, Don.
And I
7th
got sworn
term.
in for that 7th term because we thought we might need a vote there in those first couple weeks. And every time I sat with a leader, I never called Senator Byrd senator. I always called him leader. When I sat,
There's a reason, you know, he's one of the longest-standing Democratic Ku Klux Klan members, and they said by the time he died, he was one of the highest, like Grand Cyclops or something like that of the Ku Klux Klan. He was one of the highest ranking in the Klan. He called him leader because that's who he was. He was a leader of the Ku Klux Klan, and all the Democrats, Don, I'm telling you, they're the Ku Klux Klan. Now listen to him.
with a leader, I could see that look in his face, and he said, "Joe, you sure you're making the right decision giving up the Senate for vice president?" Because as the senators know, he revered the Senate. As Danny Inouye said going into the chamber when we were going in to honor your father, yesterday we walked in together. He said, "You know, Joe, had you stayed, you'd be number 2. I'm still number 2, Danny. I'm still number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President,
Anyway, I guess you get the point, right, Don? He loves Robert Byrd. There's pictures of him back younger when he was with Robert Byrd and Lyndon B. Johnson. Oh, they're buddies, you know what I'm saying? So he cuddled up with these Klan guys. And I'm going to tell you right now, this guy's a Klan guy, too, out of Pennsylvania. Joe Biden is a Klan guy out of Pennsylvania. I grew up in New Jersey, right? And when I was younger, you could look into this, Don. You know, he used to ride the trains and the buses all over the place. And he was known as the transit pedophile because what he used to do is go down like by Scranton, Pennsylvania, or he used to go down even in Newark, New Jersey, like come over out in the subway from New York or in Pennsylvania stuff, and he'd go preying on the heroin-addicted mothers, and he would give them heroin money, playing like he was a good guy, coming through like he's talking to people looking for votes, but he was really looking for those heroin addicts, strung-out moms with kids, so he could give them money, come in the house with them, and let them get stoned while he played with their kids. No shit, this is the God's honest truth. I couldn't believe when I seen this guy. I blow my mind when Barack Obama picked him for vice. I still can't believe what's happening in this country right now. I can't believe it, but it is. It's happening. But you look back, you'll find this guy used to ride the transits all the time. And he was a public transport, then they called him the transit pedophile. They called him the transit pedophile in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Newark, New Jersey, New York City, I'm telling you, Virginia. Everybody back then knew Joe Biden was a transit pedophile. Okay, so just so you know. And that's a fact. that's a damn fact. But now we're going to move a little bit forward. Here you go. Your 2-term Democratic president, Hillary Clinton, last front runner president for the presidency of the Democratic Party. This is her 2-term Democratic president, Bill Clinton. And let's hear what Bill Clinton, this is amazing, Don. I want you to pay close attention now. Because you talk about principles, values, divisiveness, and like getting away from the people who are accepting of these things. And I'm going to tell you, like, listen to this guy, and you let me know if he's really, like, accepting of it. And what do you get from the message of this? I want you to listen to this, Don. Really, you stupid idiot.
There are a lot of people who wrote these
Listen to this, Don.
eulogies for Senator Byrd in the newspapers, and I read a bunch of them, and they mentioned that he once had a fleeting association with the Ku Klux Klan. And what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means.
Pay attention,
He
Don.
was a country boy from the hills and hollows of West Virginia. He was trying to get elected. And maybe he did something he shouldn't have done, and he spent the rest of his life making it up. And that's what a good person does.
So Don, according to Bill Clinton, if you want to get elected in a Democratic Party, you have a greater chance of being elected if you're in the Ku Klux Klan. You're okay with that, Don? Now, I don't ever recall hearing anybody of a Republican saying such a thing. I really don't. And one thing I want to pull up, too, while I'm talking to you here, KKK members of the U.S. government. Let's see what we get on that. And here it is right here. I just want to show you, Don, if you go through this whole list of like right here, you see that big list of government people all the way up to the current time, Don, right to this very day, they're still busting them in the Klan. Here's that guy I was talking about earlier, Hugo Black, first Supreme Court judge appointed by FDR, your Democratic president then. Okay, and then you got all these other people. Now, mind you, here's a buddy we were just talking about, Robert Byrd, right? Longest standing senator in the Democratic Party. And as you go down here, you see Democrat. They're all freaking Democrats, Don. I mean, really, I just don't understand. Now, granted, I'll give it to you. There are several Republicans in this list. But if you do the deal, because I know you just take the truth without the facts. You're like one of them that does that. Whatever anybody tells you, you're going to believe it. The funny thing about it is, I don't know why you don't believe me, Don. Not only am I telling you the truth, I'm showing you the facts to support it that make it unquestionable. And you're still not believing it. It's like, what the hell is going on, Don? Really, Don Lemon, come on, tell me. What am I saying that you just don't get? I don't get it. But anyway, what my other point is a rhino. You've heard that term, right, Don? I don't know what the Democrats told you it means, but I'm going to tell you what it means as a Republican. A rhino is a Democrat who comes over to the Republican Party and plays like he's a Republican so that when they're trying to get something passed, he rises up as a voice in agreement with the Democrats, when any true Republican knows that's not possible. As soon as he does that, we know he's a rhino. That's how we knew, John McCain was a rhino. We knew George Bush Jr. and his father were rhinos, because no true patriotic, equal-seeking, one people of all equal conservative Republican would ever agree with those racist, no-good, divisive scumbags of the Democrats. No way. And when you get one in our party stand up, we all know that's a freaking rhino. And when you look at the Republicans that are mentioned in this list, Don, you're going to have to do a little due diligence and look back on them, Don. And when you do that due diligence and you look back on them, Don, you know what you're going to find out? Before they were Republicans, they were Democrats. Then they came over to the Republican Party. And then after they got busted being in the Klan or whatever, during the time when they were Republicans, they went right back to the Democrat. They were rhinos. They weren't real Republicans. No real Republican, could do that. It's just not. It's not in our values. It's not there. Since the founding of the country, 1777, like I said, the Republicans' establishment of Republican principles in Vermont was in 1777. We abolished slavery, and we even amended the Vermont Constitution to allow the now free blacks in Vermont to vote. And there was a progression to that up to 19 states by 1861. It was only the Democrats who insisted on slavery in the southern states that the Tories controlled. And they were never a part of America. They were the enemies of America. They were the enemies of America. They were fighting us since the Revolutionary War from the back door and they were loyal to Great Britain and King George. And they still are. They still are. And as you can see, like I say, so now today, when we look at these things and you look at this long list of all the Democrats, I mean, it's just amazing, Don. I just don't get it, Don. I just don't get how you can't see it, Don Lemon, and I can't understand how all the other black Americans don't see this truth. Because here's the deal. Now, let's do a quick recap. So, the Democratic Party was prior to the Tories, who were the biggest slaveholders in the nation that didn't want to give up slavery. They formed in 1828 the Democratic Party as a pro-slavery party fighting to keep the right to keep their slaves and wanting to expand slavery across the country. Now, that was in 1828. Come up to 1861. These people were so intent on what they wanted, they literally separated from the Union of the United States of America, formed their own military, elected their own Democratic Party president, Jefferson Davis, drafted their own Democratic Party Constitution. Oh, Don, I didn't tell you. In their you need to look up the Confederate Constitution of the Democratic Party. Because you know what? In their Constitution, they made it a constitutional right to own Negroes as slaves. And they also made it an infringible right that anyone who was born black or a Negro could never be free. You see, so if they would have won that war, you would be a slave today, and there wouldn't be anything anybody could do about it, because it would have been a constitutionally protected right. And it would have been a mandated national law that being you are black, you have to be a slave. Isn't that something, Don? That's your people. That's your Democrats right there. That not Republicans didn't do that. That was them. So then they lost the Civil War. Thank God, Republican Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Party beat them. But we still had to endure. And mind you, too, Don, it wasn't really so much North and South. Real quick while I'm thinking about it, if you want to know what they did to Southern true Republican Americans who didn't want slavery and who wanted equality and they were in the South, just look up the great hanging of Gainesville, Texas that took place, okay? Because what they did was they hung 40 white Republicans in the trees in Gainesville, Texas, as a warning to all Southern Republicans who agreed with abolishing slavery and the Republican Party Union of the United States, the free United States of America. This is what they did. And the inhumanity of the Tory Democrats, what they did. So any Southern Republican was treated that way. So you see, they kill blacks and whites, just so you understand. They were hanging white Republicans, and they've been doing it for all the 244 years. They're still doing it to this day. I get threats all the time from those Klan people because I'm a white Republican who wants equality in my country. Yeah, you believe that, John? A white guy. My white privilege doesn't work against the Klan. I assure you it doesn't. It doesn't. Got a few scars on my face to prove that. But anyway, I just don't get it, Don. We're recapping. So after the Civil War, they lose. They still push for, they oppose the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. Then they enact the Jim Crow laws. And then they keep pushing for the separate but equal. Then we hit the 1915s with Woodrow Wilson. And then we have the massacre of the black communities across the country. Then we get a little bit of a Republican run, a little bit of break. They use corruption to get that back. FDR brings in the Nation of Islam, right? Appoints the first Ku Klux Klan member to the Supreme Court. These things continue on through with the separate but equal rules and the segregation rules that take place through the 40s. And then we wind up going into World War II. World War II, because I'm just saying, you mentioned these things about the Nazis and separation and concentration camps and such. Mind you, FDR and the entire Democratic Party and Hitler admired the American Democratic Party because they embraced the ideologies together. They believed in superior races, like you had the Democrats believing that they had their white elitist racist position as the Democrats, and then you had Hitler with his blue-eyed, blonde-haired superior race of his that he wanted, and both agreed that, the Negro race was considered to be inferior and should be extinct. Both were on favor with Margaret Sanger's plans to do that, and FDR refused when he was pushed up by American Republicans about, hey, what the hell are you siding with this Nazi for? He refused to condemn Hitler. I mean, there's a whole thing about this stuff, Don. It's in the history. I got a little link, and I'll try and include these links with everything that I'm saying to you. See, right here, why FDR wouldn't condemn Hitler. And it's pretty clear why when you read this story, the Democrats and the Hitler, the Nazis, they were all on board with each other, Don. I don't know where you got the misinformation of thinking it was the Republicans. And then today, like I'm saying, now we're going to just continue on. So then they start with the Knights Labor Union to suppress the blacks out of the industrial boom that was taking place in the country. Get the FDR in the 15s again. He destroys all the black communities. You get or that was Woodrow Wilson, and you get FDR with the appointment of Hugo Black to the Supreme Court, and then you get through the 1940s with separate but equal, and trying to keep them segregated and oppress them into like the welfare state. And then you get Lyndon B. Johnson, who everybody thought was the civil rights hero, winds up being a Ku Klux Klan member out of Texas. FBI verified, and so did the Klan themselves. And we know he was best friends with Robert Byrd. And then, like I say, it comes all the way up to today. Now you got the front runner. I showed you videos where they're praising Robert Byrd at his, when he died. They're all doing their eulogies to the man like he's a freaking, hey, if you listen to the rest of that one with Joe Biden, he's the backbone of the Senate. He was the strength and foundation of the Democratic Party. He praises him the same as Hillary Clinton and them, and they defend his Klan time and everything. And you're okay with that, Don. You're really okay with that. You don't have half of this insanity. You don't even have an eighth. You don't even have a freaking tenth or 1% of this insanity in the Republican Party, because this stuff never happened with the Republicans. It's all with the Democrats. Your party, Don. I just don't understand how you could be so stupid not to know all this. And then let's take a look at the platform today of the Democratic Party. Your Democratic Party has in it today that of the Islamic Muslims as their ally. The very people who sold you into slavery to the Democrats during the founding of this nation, okay, when it was under King George and Great Britain's rule. The King George bought all the black slaves from the Islamic Muslims who dominated the black slave trade. Brought them here, right? Now, we know that they started the Union labor. They caused a civil war. They want to keep you as slaves. They have a constitution themselves mandated you as a slave. Then we get into, like I say, the Knights Union, where they oppress you out of work. Then you get the destruction of everything. Margaret Sanger with Planned Parenthood. I'm just saying unions, Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood, separate but equal, Ku Klux Klan. Now, today, what is the platform of the Democrats today? Welfare state, segregation. Look how they use your people to incite riots and this, that, and everything. And where's all the police brutality going on? It's not in Democratic-controlled districts and states, Don. It's all Democratic-controlled. If you would think of it, like Chicago's all Democrat. Everywhere you see the violence and police abuse, it's under the Democrats. How come this stuff doesn't happen to Republicans? I'll tell you why. Because in Republicans, you're with the wrong people, Don. You're with the wrong people. They even told you, Lyndon B. Johnson, he told you who your allies were. You just don't listen because you believe the truth they tell you without looking into the facts. And I'm showing you the facts, and if you go by the facts, Lyndon B. Johnson himself told you who the Allies were, the people who started the Reconstruction. You know who that was, Don, right? Republicans. Okay, so today, the Democratic Party, they support still and greatly sustain Planned Parenthood, right? We know they're in great support of the unions, which is still the Knights Union, labor unions. You know, the Democrats are still in control. It was the Ku Klux Klan. We know from Robert Byrd recently, and then we know too right now, there's a big revival going on with the Klan again. They actually revived the Ku Klux Klan greater than it was. They say that their enrollment rates are up 33%, Don, because of all the racial incitement in the Democratic-controlled districts, cities, and states, that the Democrats have been inciting this riot, looting, burning down of towns, beating up people, disturbing them at restaurants, blocking traffic. All Democrats doing this. And now, because of them, they've divided the nation greatly. They have a rise and an increase in the Ku Klux Klan membership of scared white people who think the Klan's going to be able to protect them. And they're all running to the Ku Klux Klan. Not to mention, too, that you have a lot of the black communities falling for the lie of the Nation of Islam, and they're going over to the Nation of Islam, when everybody's trying to run to get protected, and all this divisiveness, Don. And then you got an idiot, a total brain-dead, stupid, goddamn idiot like you, sitting up here, spinning off the story, so ignorant that you don't even realize you are full of it. You're a liar. You're up there lying, propagated lies for the Democratic Party because you believe a truth that's lies because you won't consider the facts. Now, I made this video for you, Don Lemon. I hope somebody puts it out to you. I hope you watch it. And what I would ask for you is you do the same kind of video and you come back to me and show me where the Republicans have done the atrocities I've shown you of the Democrats. Present your evidence of facts to support your claims of what you're accusing the Republicans, like I'm doing with you here. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. You see if you can do that, Don, because I'm going to tell you what you really need to do is stop believing the truth of lies that the Democrats tell you. Consider the facts I'm telling you and face the truth of the reality. You are an idiot. You are an idiot. And everyone like you is a damn idiot because I'm telling you the truth. And if you can prove anything I said to not be the truth, I'll be waiting and watching to see you do it. Have a great day. Appreciate everybody who's watched my video. If anybody has the ability, I would ask that if you can get this video to Don Lemon or anybody who's in major politics of a black political position that's a Democrat and that would like to watch this and debate with me on this, I'm open to it 100%. Really. And I mean, I'm just a dummy from Newark, New Jersey, and I know this stuff. Really. Let's have that debate. I'm open to it. I really am. But again, thanks everybody for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great weekend.